Elizabeth Chappell, a lifelong entrepreneur who finally found my niche. After years of new ideas and jumping from business to business, I figured out how to turn a craft into a successful career. In 2016, I started a monthly subscription box for quilters. That little startup has grown into a thriving, multiple six-figure business that I am so proud of. As a published author, designer of fabrics and patterns being sold throughout the world, my favorite thing to do is to teach others how to grow a career of their dreams. Each week, you'll hear from me or from other guests who are creative entrepreneurs, so you can learn exactly what to do and what not to do to grow a career that's more rewarding and successful than you ever thought possible. If you're ready to turn your craft into a career that you love, I am so excited you're here. Welcome to the Craft to Career podcast. Welcome. I'm excited to have you listeners here on the Craft to Career podcast. And first, I'm going to announce the 3 winners. If you recall, I recently did a fun little incentive for everyone who left a review. I am choosing 3 people who wrote a review in Apple Podcasts that gets $100. And so I only have the name that you have, I guess, as an Apple ID. So I'm going to share those names. And if that's you, reach out to me and I will make sure that you get your prize. So number 1 is Kobe Quilts. It's K-O-B-I-E. And they signed their name Coco, K-O-K-O. Number 2 is Lizzo M. And number 3 is Tiffany Green Photo. So those are the 3 winners chosen at random. Thank you, everyone who left a written review in Apple Podcasts. I was hoping to get past 300, and I'm at 319. So I'm very, very grateful for that. And if you haven't left a review, you could possibly be that one that gets it to 320. So go ahead and write a review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. And go ahead and you can choose 1 through 5 star review for the podcast. So thank you. Again, congrats to those 3 winners. If that's you, please reach out to me. You can email me hello@quilterscandy.com and we'll make sure that you get your prize. So today I wanted to share with you behind the scenes of my front porch Quilt Along, because this has been a super successful Quilt Along for me. And I want you to know why it's been successful so that you can replicate what's worked for me. And then I'm going to share a few things that I've learned that I would do differently and will do differently, because I do plan to do another Quilt Along after this being so successful. So first of all, what is a Quilt Along? And for those who are not in the quilting community, you can still take this idea and run with it. So if you're a quilter, great. This will be like apples to apples applicable. If you're in any other kind of industry, you can still take the things that worked for me and apply it to something else. In fact, I plan to take what's worked well and do many different things besides a quilt along. So, but what is a quilt along? A quilt along is in the quilting community where a person who writes a quilt pattern invites everyone to come and you kind of quilt along with me, with the pattern writer, the person who's selling the pattern. And you give a timeline and say, this week we are all going to cut our fabric together. I mean, at our own homes. We're not going to gather in person. It's all, you can be in any part of the world. But during this period of time, we will all work on cutting our fabric. Then the next week, we will all work on sewing this. Then the next week, we will work on basting the quilt. You kind of have a step-by-step what you're going to work on. And people can do that in their own homes, but you kind of do it at the same time. And then you use social media. For me, it's Instagram. And you post your progress. And you can have prizes or not. I did for this. I do for that's still going on right now. So that is motivation for people to share their progress, to stay up to date with what's going on, to not drop off and not finish. And it's also great marketing because people are sharing, oh, look at this quilt by Elizabeth, a quilter's candy that I'm working on. And all these people are posting about it. So it just generates more and more traffic and sales. So what inspired me to do this quilt along? Well, a couple of things. One, I did not have a lot going on this summer in my business, namely nothing. I had nothing on the docket and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do a quilt along. And it's been very nice that I have really tapered back all of my commitments. I've just had a lot less. I knew my daughter was graduating. I didn't want to put a lot on my calendar and I just wanted to be more present. And so that allowed me to just on a whim be like, yeah, I'd like to do a quilt along. But you can plan it ahead of time. I mean, it doesn't have to be, oh, I've got nothing going on. It can be, I really want to plan this. So I'm going to make sure that that's what I'm doing 6 months from now or whatever it might be. And I also decided to do this because I've done a quilt along before. I've done multiple quilt alongs. Some have been successful and some I did not feel were as successful, but I'd done them before. So this wasn't new to me and I thought it would be fun to do. And then I reached out to Baby Lock. I am an ambassador for Baby Lock sewing machines. And I just asked if they'd be willing to donate a sewing machine as a grand prize. And they said, yes, we would love to. So I was very excited about that. Now, keep in mind, and I'll talk about this down the road in this podcast, they had donated a sewing machine previously. And I want to talk about the differences in the success between those two different times. So I had an amazing prize. I had done a quilt along before. I felt comfortable with it. And, I had the bandwidth for it. It just felt like something fun to do. So I got that idea and wanted to do it. So then how do you plan a quilt along? Well, if it's your first time out of the gate, you are going to want to create a calendar. And I have one from canva.com. In fact, I will put a link in the show notes. If you want the template for my calendar, you can use it for your own event and you can just change the dates and change all the information on that calendar and use it for your own event, whether it's a quilt along or any other kind of event that you host. But you want to create a calendar, and a calendar, this is something that's both for you and for the people who are participating. So you have a calendar saying, week 1, we're going to cut our fabric. Week 2, we're going to do this. And just so it's very cut and dry, very clear. There are no questions from the participants or from you. And that's going to be like the first thing that you want to plan out is when you're going to do this. And then you want to backtrack and say, okay, well, if we're going to do that in June, then I'm going to want to start promoting that a couple beforehand. And so we'll just leave it at that. I'm going to dive into that more. Then you also, for a quilt along, you want to have a pattern. You want to have a pattern that is written, finished, checked by a tech editor. Preferably, what you really want to do is have a quilt pattern that has been successful. So when I say I have had quilt alongs that have been successful and not as successful, the one that was not that successful, it was a pattern that was not selling very well. And in my mind, I was like, I'm going to make this sell more by doing a quilt along. It's not having good sales, so let's do a quilt along and I will get more sales. It did not work that way. I still just didn't get a lot of people signed up for it. Now I've done quilt alongs that have been successful, none as successful as this front porch quilt along. This is over 5,500 people who've signed up for this quilt along. But the ones that have had 1,000+ people sign up in the past, that was because I used my most popular, best-selling patterns. People were already excited about the pattern. I wasn't trying to create excitement for a pattern. So that's a really big tip to have success with an event. Take something that's already doing well and already is exciting to people and just add more excitement to it. So that's a big key to planning your event, is finding something that's working well. Then for a quilt along, it's really good to make mock-ups to show people what it could look like in different fabrics. You want to plan prizes. If you're going to do prizes, you don't have to do prizes. I do feel like prizes really incentivize people and get people posting and participating. So if you can. Now, a word about prizes. Obviously, I have the big sewing machine from Baby Lock. But I have had success with quilt alongs in the past, and it doesn't have to be, that's crazy. Like that's a really big prize. You don't have to do that. Now, in the past, with other quilt alongs, I have reached out, and every single week it was a prize from somebody else. Somebody was donating something, and they were donating it because they wanted exposure. And I would say, hey, in order to qualify, you have to do the thing this week. So whether it's cutting your fabric or sewing, the quilt top, whatever, but you also need to follow this person. So they wanted to get exposure, and that's why they donated that thing. Now, as I have done more of these, I'm less inclined to want to have my audience follow people. That's a big ask. And I don't want to have to do that. And so I usually try to do things that I can give myself. I did this time ask Liza Taylor if I could do a free 3-month subscription to her foundation paper piecing membership as one of the prizes, mostly because I really love her designs and her membership, and I thought it would be very exciting. But that does also leave me with the responsibility of making it worth it to her. Like I want to promote that and share about that so that she's not just giving away this thing for free as a buddy, So that does add some responsibility on your shoulder if you ask for people to donate things. Just keep that in mind. But prizes I've done this time, for example, this week, I'm donating $100. So anyone who posts their cut fabric this week on Instagram using my hashtag, they're eligible. And I'm just going to pay that out of my own pocket. Again, I don't have to make sure that anyone's getting promoted or being followed. It's just less work for me. And I've had enough pattern sales that it's worth it. And week 1, I donated a fabric bundle of one of my fabric collections. So again, I'm paying for the shipping, but and granted, I'm paying for the fabric, except I got that for free from Art Gallery when I designed it. So I didn't really pay for it. But that again is a cost on my end that I decided to take so that I didn't have to ask someone to donate something or pay someone, like if I were to give a gift card to a shop, you either need to pay for that prize or have someone donate it, but you want to give something in exchange. It's not just you're asking for free out of the goodness of your heart. You want to make it a win-win, if that makes sense. So you want to plan out those prizes. And then it gets some of the technical things, like some tech tools. So I highly recommend using ManyChat. Now, granted, this is 2025. So if you're listening to this in the future, things might change. The landscape might look a little different. But as of right now, ManyChat is what I recommend. And so that allows me to create a reel or a post on Instagram. And I will say comment QAL, quilt along, whatever, comment any word you want to make up. And I will give you the link to sign up to join the quilt along. I word it less than that. That's really wordy, but comment this and join the quilt along. There we go. So you do not want to have to be going and sending a link to everybody who comments. So ManyChat does that for you. They just automatically will DM the person and send them the link, and they can sign up for the quilt along. So you want to get that automation going. And of course, then you want to plan some social media content. You've got to get the word out. I keep thinking, people are going to get tired of this. No, every time I post about it, people sign up. I'm like, surely everybody knows about it. Nope, they don't. So you can't overpost about it. People will get excited about it or they won't. But you're not going to burn a bridge by sharing about a fun event that you're hosting. So just keep sharing. And then you will want to create an email opt-in. And if you do not know how to do that, I'm going to also share in the show notes. I have created a little course. I mean, it's really very simple and user-friendly. And it goes through how to use Flowdesk, which is what I use, to create an email opt-in. And it goes through how to create a URL so that you can send a link to somebody. And it's a whole page, very simple, that says, put your email here, sign up. And as soon as they sign up, you're able to add them to your list that specifically says they are interested in the quilt along. And automatically, as soon as they sign up, an email will be sent to them. It's just automatic. You don't have to think about it. You've set up this automation, and an email goes directly to them that welcomes them to the quilt along. And so you want to set that up so that as soon as you start sharing about it, This whole system is in place. They sign up, they get a welcome email. And in that welcome email, you're going to send them the calendar that you've created, whether it's in Canva or wherever else. And you're just going to have a very smooth transition and process for them to sign up and know what's going on. You want to answer a lot of the frequently asked questions. And I have been surprised. I'll just tell you what a lot of those questions are so that you can troubleshoot and answer those right away before people start asking you. So one, does it cost anything to join? No, it doesn't cost anything to join the Quilt Along. However, you will need the quilt pattern. So yes and no. Like to join the Quilt Along, no. To make the quilt pattern, yes. To make the quilt, yes, you need the quilt pattern. I put my quilt pattern on sale for the duration, the whole time that I'm promoting about it. So I can say, hey, you're in luck. The quilt pattern is on sale right now. Buy that, while it's on sale. So that's another thing you want to set up ahead of time, getting that pattern on a discount sale. I'm surprised how many people have asked, what is a quilt along? They just don't know. A lot of people have never done one before and they don't know what it entails. So again, having that calendar for people and just a little brief 1-paragraph explanation of what a quilt along is and how it works. And then inviting people to, like for me, everyone posts on Instagram. That's how I choose my winners. And I know from past experience that people will say, I don't use Instagram. I don't have an Instagram account. I'm so bummed that I'm not going to be able to get the prizes. So I've learned how to address that. And I just say, I actually do use ChatGPT to help create it in a soft way, but Instagram is free and it is available to everyone. So it's a matter of someone choosing that they don't want to use Instagram, which I respect and I get that. However, in order for the person, myself, you, whoever's hosting the Quilt Along, there has to be a streamlined way to choose a winner. And this has just proven to be the most simple, efficient, free way to choose a winner. And so some people, I don't even address or ask, why don't you want Instagram? I will just say, I recommend opening an account that is totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Not private. It has to be a public account, but it can just be a nothing account. Like some people don't want to share their personal life. They don't want to be on Instagram. So really they can just go in and create an account on Instagram. And all they're doing, it's just for the Quilt Along. They're just going to go in and post their photo and they don't need to look at Instagram. They don't need to do anything else, but it's free, it's available, and it's open for everyone to do that. And so I just kind of address that, like that it's open to them. They can do that. This is what I recommend. If they're like, it's a private account. I don't want people to see my family. Just say, okay, no problem. You can go make a different separate account just for the Quilt Along. And anyhow, that's a frequently asked question. Not too frequent, but here and there you get people who will say that. And a couple other frequently asked questions. Sometimes people will say, again, not often, but I was surprised it happened a couple of times that people were like, oh, I just got the calendar. This actually won't work with my personal life. Can you please take me off of this email list? So it's really nice to put automatically in your email. Again, I show you in my Flowdesk course, how to use Flowdesk, how to create an opt-out to say, do you not want to receive emails about this Quilt Along anymore? Click here. That way it saves you any headache or hassle of having to go in, find them, remove them from that particular list so they're not off your entire email list. So that's something that I would recommend setting up. And then I definitely got questions about fabric bundles. People really wanted my exact cover quilt, my front porch quilt, which I don't blame them. I love it. It's really beautifully done, if I may say so myself. But I did not offer bundles. And so you're going to want to, if you want to offer bundles, you're going to either want to buy the fabric and put those bundles together yourself or reach out to fabric shops, let them know you're going to be doing a quilt along, sew along, share the fabric requirements, and ask. And I would have a deadline and say, please, if you're interested, have this ready by X date, because I'm going to share. And that's something I learned. We'll get to that. But yes, reach out to fabric shops and ask them to put together bundles so that you can send people easily. You don't have to do that. You really don't, but it is a nice bonus that I think adds a lot of value if you're doing a quilt along to send people to an easy, here's a bundle that's prepared for you. You can just buy that. When I first started offering online courses and a membership, I needed a platform that could do it all without giving me a tech headache. That is why I chose Kajabi. I have been blown away by everything it can do. With Kajabi, I run my courses, a membership, email marketing all in one place. You can even build a website with a blog and sell digital products, host webinars and coaching calls, and even set up an affiliate program all without needing a dozen different tools. And the best part, it's powerful yet easy to use. I love it so much that I even created a free course to show you how to get started with Kajabi. Access my free course on how to use Kajabi and try Kajabi for free by visiting bit.ly/QC Kajabi or visit the show notes for the link. If you're ready to streamline your business and enjoy the process, give Kajabi a try. You are going to love it. So behind the scenes, let's talk about what you do not see in a quilt along. So you do not see me making the quilt because there are a couple of options. You don't have to make the quilt in real time with your audience. If you documented really well that first time that you made the quilt, you can just share that original video footage or photos that you created, and you don't have to recreate it all over again. So you could just share your original footage, or you could go through and make it again and share the process and share tips each week. So those are things you don't see, is either creating that quilt or putting together all the footage and the photos and the tips and everything that you're going to share each week for the quilt along. You do not see the creation of the social media posts. So a lot of, time and thought goes into how to promote and share about this quilt along. I have found the most successful reels, really, I'll say reels, are videos of making like a progress block where I start with the fabric and show the process of making, especially for the front porch quilt along, because it's a 3D flying geese block. It's a little bit of a different method of assembly, and people are always intrigued by that. And it's a very popular watch for people. So you don't see the behind the scenes of me making that. You do not see behind the scenes of setting up the email, the opt-in, the automatic emails that go out as soon as they're signed up, the Canva calendar, reaching out to the fabric shops and making sure that the bundles are going to be ready to promote, making blog posts that share about the fabric bundles, the calendar. Week 1, here's what we do to this. So there's all those behind the scenes. And then there's emails that come in with questions. So again, if you can have a frequently asked questions section, you might limit that, the workload there. But you are guaranteed to have, the more successful it is, the more people who sign up, the more questions you're going to get. I mean, things like, I accidentally purchased 2 patterns, and there's nothing else you can do except to go in and refund them. I've even had some people who are like, my credit card is not working. What can I do? So you're just going to get some emails that's behind the scenes. People don't see that, but obviously it's worth it. Well worth it. So now let's talk about what worked. Why do I think, I don't know all the reasons, but why do I think this quilt along went so well? Honestly, up until a couple days ago, I was like, well, no one else is doing a quilt along right now. That's why it's going so well. But then I found out that's not true. There are some other quilt alongs going on at the moment. I just wasn't aware of them, which actually has been really nice for me. I have really put my head down, and I don't follow a lot of other quilting accounts because, well, that's a whole nother podcast topic, but I don't follow a lot of other quilting accounts. So I legitimately thought I was the only one doing a quilt along right now, but someone did post, they used my hashtag, and they posted along with another hashtag, like, I'm doing both of these quilt alongs. I'm like, oh, there are other quilt alongs. And then someone else mentioned, like, as if I need another quilt along right now, haha, but I'm going to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I mistakenly thought that I was the only quilt along happening in the summer. I was like, this is genius. No one's hosting quilt alongs in the summer. I'll just do this every summer because no one else is doing this. Well, no, they are. So that, see, like I said, we don't always know why things work out the way they did. I legitimately thought that was a reason why it was going so well, but I was mistaken. But I do think things that I really do think have worked out in my favor. I had a 2-month runway. Normally, I do not spend 2 months sharing about something. Like, what is it right now? It's July. Oh my gosh, it's July, August, September. Oh my gosh. I really should be having my runway for the quilt pattern writing course right now. So that's next. As soon as I am done recording this, we're going to go start getting that in gear because my gosh, I've spent more time doing a runway for my quilt along than my quilt pattern writing course. So that has led to this success is 2-month runway. And I honestly had so many people sign up right at first. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a month left. I don't know how this is going to go. I think people are going to forget about it. I don't know. No, it was fine. But I think it's because I continued to kind of like, hey, this is coming up. Don't forget, this is coming up. Here's a blog post. Here's some fabric bundles. Just kind of touch points. I kept touch point, like staying in touch. But I also kept promoting. And I still am. So we're in week 2 of the Quilt Along. I'll probably now taper off promoting, like sign up for it, because we're far enough in the Quilt Along that if people join now, it's kind of hard to catch up. But honestly, even during week 1, I did a reel sharing about the Sashiko sewing machine, and a ton of people did not know and signed up for it. So I just kept promoting the heck out of this Quilt Along, and that has worked really well. Number 2, my audience is bigger. So I have done quilt alongs in the past, and I touched on this before. So this is what I was going to say. So Baby Lock actually did give a Sashiko sewing machine as a grand prize in the past. And I think I had like 1,500 people sign up for that quilt along. I did not promote it as long, probably like, I don't know, 3 weeks of promotion before that one. So the prize was not the thing. You know, you don't have to have a free sewing machine in order to have success with a quilt along. It's much more about sharing and your audience size. So my audience back when I did that sew along, quilt along, if I had to guess, was probably around 30 to 40,000 people. And my email list was probably 20,000. I'm just guesstimating, but it's an educated guess. So now my email list is over 75,000 and my followers on Instagram are 152,000. So it's a much bigger audience, and that does matter. It really does. And I know in the past I was like, it doesn't matter. You can have success with a small audience. But the more people who are seeing your stuff, the more they're going to buy. It's just math, simple math. So it does help that I have a larger email list and a larger social media following. And hands down, I get more people signing up whenever I send an email, no doubt. So people are like, wow, your audience on Instagram is so much bigger. I get way more success from my email list every single time. It is what it is. So bigger email list is where it's at. So what else has worked? I've emailed a lot. I have sent out in every email I share about the quilt along and invite people again. I've been doing that for 2 months leading up to this. And then there is the free sewing machine. So I don't, as much as I'm like, it's not the sewing machine. It doesn't hurt, like that's a pretty darn good prize. And so I do think that has played into this to a degree. Like I said, I had this exact same prize in the past and I did not get this kind of a turnout. But I do think it helps. And I do think it helps that I have done a quilt along before. In fact, I've done this exact quilt along before, the front porch quilt along. And so I just have been able to repurpose my emails, my calendar, my blog post. I can just refresh and repurpose. I don't know that has helped me have as many people sign up, but it has helped the ease of it. It's very easy for me to create that content. I'm just refreshing, updating, maybe adding a little bit more. So it's a lot less work for me to do. And one last thing I want to share about what worked for my quilt along. This is an idea that I recently learned about, and I just wanted to give it a try. It's the link in my bio on Instagram. So, like all things with Instagram, you're always hearing like, try this, try this, try this. And I do. I try different things. This I tried and it worked. So I'll share what I did. But the link in my bio, I changed for about a month. It says the only thing the link in my bio says is, besides my name and all of that, but like the words that you can type in there that aren't bolded, it basically just said, join the Front Porch Quilt Along. And as the numbers grew, I put in like join over 4,000. And then I changed it, join over 5,000 quilters in the Front Porch Quilt Along. And before it started, I said beginning June 30th. And then once it started, I took that away. So I just kind of updated that. And then the only thing you could access when you clicked the link in my bio were two things, because currently right now you can share two different links in your bio, in the link in your bio. So one was the sign up form to join the waitlist. And the second was the link to the pattern. That was it. That's all I had in the link in my bio. Nothing to my website, nothing to Linktree, none of that. The only thing that people could do when they clicked the link in my bio was join the Quilt Along or get the pattern. And both had a lot of clicks. So that's something to think about and to give a try. I'm going to do that. I have another event coming up that I'll be promoting right before my quilt pattern writing course. And once the quilt pattern writing course, I'm launching that. That will be, again, the only thing that I'll share in the link in my bio. So as you're really launching something or promoting something, give it a try and see how it is to just have that one thing be the link in your bio. So things that I will change next time. I kind of talked about the fabric bundles, but if I'm torn, okay, fabric bundles. I will sell bundles, whether they are my own or someone else's, but it'll be different. I'm tempted to sell my own just because I know how successful that will be. I have seen how many people want to buy a fabric bundle, and I know that I could put together my cover quilt and it would sell well. And most of the fabric bundles that were sold, no, none of them were exact like my cover quilt. There were some really cute ones that I personally loved, and they sold out real quick. But none of them were my cover quilt, and people just kept asking for that. So that's something that I highly will consider. But with the fabric bundles, this time it was very lackadaisical. I had my assistant reach out and like, hey, just see if they'll be willing to put together a bundle. And so it just kind of trickled in over time. Different companies were like, yeah, sure. And so I was constantly having to go to this website where I was sharing about the bundles and update. Oh, here's another one. Oh, this one sold out, and just keep updating. And it was that was not a good system that I had in place. So I would definitely have a list of shops that I like their fabric bundles. And I would reach out and say, I love the bundles you put together. Would you put one together for this quilt along? Here's the fabric requirements. Please, if you're wanting to do this, have it ready by X date. And I would share the success. I would say, last time I did this, I had 1,000 people sign up. This last time, 5,500 people kept asking. Just let them know it's a safe bet. You know, like they're taking a gamble, the fabric shops, to put together a bundle for you. And so they kind of want to know, like, is this going to be successful or not? So you want to have some, if you've had success in the past, share that with them so that they can be like, oh yeah, definitely sign me up. But yeah, I would say have it ready by this date with a link. And then I would I ended up changing my website saying when these are sold out, they're sold out. Because at first I was like, I will update this as when they're sold out, it'll be taken off. I don't want to do that. I don't want to keep going and like keeping on top of what's selling out and what's not. So just share a link to the shops and say, once they're gone, they're gone. And you don't need to go and keep updating that. So that just treat yourself to that. And then I kind of mentioned before, but I would have a frequently asked question section. And I mentioned what those were, but I would just have frequently asked questions. Here they are. And then just save yourself having to respond to as many emails by having that frequently asked questions section. So tips, seeing the success of this. So last year, it was last fall, I did the Quilterpreneur retreat at Sundance in Utah. And we had, the whole topic of it was like sustainable business. from many different aspects. But one of those topics and one of the guests I had particularly invited was to come and speak about selling quilt patterns. Like, how is it sustainable to sell quilt patterns and have that be it? And it was Emily Dennis. And she talked about, like, that's all she does. She doesn't design fabric. She doesn't do anything else. It's quilt patterns. That's it. And she does very well with that. And that's my big takeaway from this quilt along is, like, you don't have to be on the hamster wheel of creation. You don't have to constantly be writing a new pattern and constantly have something new. First of all, you're going to burn out. You will. I've experienced it. I've seen many others experience it. It's not sustainable. So don't do that, but create what you love. And when it catches and starts doing well, then sell that, go all in, instead of like having a launch that lasts a week or two, do a whole huge event, do a quilt along or whatever, for whatever your industry that might look like. And then if that goes well, do it again the next year and just rinse and repeat. Make it easier. We treat rinse and repeat like it's some sort of punishment, that it's boring, but it's actually the reward. You have a successful business when you are able to rinse and repeat. You're able to take this product that sold really well and really sell it again. I do that. I'm going to do that with quilt alongs moving forward. I have another one that I have in the gear house that'll be coming out next year. And then my quilt pattern writing course, I launched that once a year. And I even asked ChatGPT, I heard this advice to ask ChatGPT to be my business coach with tough love, tell me the truth. And I asked, should I evergreen my quilt pattern writing course and lower the price because I won't be in there? It would be access it at your own. And ChatGPT was like, no, absolutely not. Do not do that. Like, it devalues it. People are coming to get the touch point, to have interaction with you, the class, all of this. You're known for the signature course. I'm like, okay, all right, you're right. So I am acting like the rinse and repeat of that course is some sort of punishment, when no, it's a reward. It's a very successful course that I can do over and over again. Same with a quilt along. It goes well, do it again. Don't invent something new. Don't come up with okay, now what? What should I do next? Not to mention the past 2 months, content has not been really difficult for me to come up with because I'm sharing about the quilt along. And it's very easy for me to say, comment this and opt into the quilt along. And you might think, gosh, people are going to get sick of that if you're always talking. They're not. My audience has grown and people signing up for the quilt along has grown. And there are people who have left, and that's fine. They're not here for what I'm offering. That's okay. But overall, the trajectory is growth. So just work less and work smarter, not that hamster wheel of creation. Yeah. So keep creating until you find that bestseller. And when I say keep creating, again, it doesn't have to be that hamster wheel. I honestly really sit and think, what do you love? What's a problem that you're solving? What's something that you just really, really people are asking about and you want to solve this issue for them? Try that and promote that. And then tips for a quilt along in general is have that auto email set up in place so that when they sign up, they automatically get the timeline. They get what's expected. Just answer, what is a quilt along? How does this work? An easy way to opt out if you decide this doesn't work for you or you're not able to participate, you can click here and you won't get any more emails about this. And then a frequently asked questions section. And then, of course, link to buying the pattern. You want to say, hey, don't forget to get the pattern. It's on sale. Get it here, and send a link to that. And then, again, just rinse and repeat. It's a beautiful process. It's worked really well for me. And like I said, it's been really nice to just slow down with my business. And the more that I've been slowing down, the more I've enjoyed what I've done. I've worked a whole heck of a lot less. And it's funny, people are like, so what are you doing in your business? And it's less sexy. I'm like, well, I'm doing a quilt along. How about that? But it's going really well. I mean, do the math, 50 or 5,500 people. Now, not all of them are buying the pattern, but still, that's a lot of pattern sales. So it's doing really well. And then I've got my course coming up, and then I'll do another quilt along next year, and then I'll do my course. And that's great. it's not a whole lot of work. I figured out some systems. I've got the emails set up in place, and I just get to rinse and repeat. So it's a lot less busy than it has to, I don't know, than maybe we've thought it needed to be, or that other people are selling this idea of do this, 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 this. I just think do a whole lot less, do it really well, find the thing that people are interested in, and just do it again and again. So that's my behind the scenes with the Front Porch Quilt Along. And if you have questions, I would love to hear them. So send me an email, hello@quilterscandy.com. Send me all of your questions, particularly on this topic, but really any. I would love to do a whole podcast on just questions and answers from the audience. So go ahead and share those. And thank you for being here. Again, if you have just a minute to go and leave a review for the podcast, that would be super helpful. And I will see you next time with a brand new episode. Until then, take care.